A customer wants to order a single ignition coil. What question should you ask to make sure you're covering all the bases? We're going to find out next on Talking Parts.
This video is sponsored by Blue Streak. Visit standardbluestreak.com to learn more.
When a customer orders an ignition coil, there are 4 questions you should ask to make sure they're getting everything they need to do the job right, and to make sure you're not missing any out on sales. The first question is, why did the original coil fail? By asking this question, you can start to ascertain the customer's level of understanding of ignition systems and whether you're setting yourself up for a potential return. If you're dealing with a technician, keep in mind they should never swap coils to diagnose a misfire code. Swapping coils can lead to additional damage to other driver circuits on the vehicle. Also, it's important to note that some manufacturers use different coil designs between cylinders, so the coils might not be interchangeable. The second question, what's the condition of the spark plug? As the gap between the electrodes and a spark plug increase, so does the amount of energy required to create a spark. When resistance increases, the secondary and primary coils have to work harder to make a high voltage, low current spark. The harder the coil has to work, the more heat the coil will generate. Now the heat won't melt the internal components, but as the coil is heat cycled, the greater variation in temperature can cause the epoxy to crack. Once the epoxy is damaged, moisture and contaminants can work their way into the coil. Now for the third question, was there oil in the spark plug well? If the answer is yes, you'll want to recommend a valve cover gasket to prevent damage to the new ignition coil. Otherwise, you could be setting the stage for premature failure of the ignition coil and a potential return on a warranted part. Finally, the last question, what's the condition of the spark plug connector and wiring harness? Often, a broken spark plug connector can cause an ignition coil to fail. If the terminals of the wiring harness don't match up with the terminals on the new coil, that brand new ignition coil won't work. With that in mind, you might want to recommend a pigtail harness to make sure the vehicle is properly connected to the ignition coil. I'm Josh Cable. Thanks for watching.